This is spent output profit ratio, or simply just price sold over price paid. So this gives us a good idea of what level of profit taking on average is happening in the market during these bigger price moves for long-term holders. And so if you think of, we have a ratio here, you think of 8 to 1, that's a profit of 700%. So typically what we saw in the last all-time high is these profits reaching over 700% and higher than that on certain daily moves and kind of more granular than the 7-day moving average. And then previous peaks, we've seen that get over to 1,600, 2,000 type percent profit plus. So we're looking for that type of behavior, which we're really not seeing right now, which is more around kind of the 100% profit range on the daily. It's reached up to 300% in kind of profit what long-term holders are doing. And a lot of that I would think is an indication of that people took profits in the previous all-time high this year, and their adjusted cost basis has gone up too. So they've accumulated more and more coins are bought at higher levels. So which is necessarily going to demand a higher price if we look at the profit taking ratios that we've seen in the past.
So just so for people at home that may not be too familiar with on-chain analytics, SOPR, spend output profit ratio, is just showing of long-term holders that are spending their coins. And this, so you can look at this on a block by block basis. This is the daily chart with a moving average on it, but 700%, right? So the long-term holder cost basis is around 17K. So if we're just thinking of just round it up to 20K, if we're looking at 700% profits, well, you can do the math there. And history doesn't always repeat, but it often rhymes. And so I think it could get pretty crazy here, and the reflexivity of a bull market, I think, might take a lot of people for surprise.
Yeah, well said. Another way we can look at kind of the level of where supply is, where the state of the market is to look at the UTXO realized price distribution. So this is just a cut to look at all the UTXOs and the last time Bitcoin supply has moved hands or exchanged on an address or transaction, and what price bucket that was essentially in. So right now, this is a healthy indicator to me, showing that now we've got 40% of the supply that's evenly distributed above kind of that 30K. And what we'd like to see is that more coins are exchanging, more supplies exchanging kind of in these higher price points. And this chart was developed a few days to a week ago. So this is not in the latest in this gray bar where we'd see more of a 63K price here. But
Sam, what's a UTXO for the listeners at home? It's a Bitcoin, right? It's the technical term for a Bitcoin on chain. So, where you might have a stock or shares on a legacy asset, with Bitcoin, you actually have inputs and outputs that are on this transparent ledger. So UTXO is just a fancy way of saying Bitcoin, but it's the more technical term. So going forward, now you know.
Yeah, thanks for the education to our teacher Dylan. But yeah, and so the other piece of this too is that there's really not a lot of resistance built up in those kind of later price ranges beyond 60K. So this chart is another way to give a good indication of where the support or resistance is in the market as well, which can lead to a lot of price discovery when there's not a lot of supply or not a lot of UTXOs kind of exchange hands above 60K, 65K, those thresholds. This is another way just to view it. I like breaking it down to keep it a little simpler for people if they're not looking at the Glassnode charts all the time. Is just breaking those price bands down in condensing them. So it's the same chart just broken out here. So we've got this buildup of supply getting close to over 6%. I think that's over that now in the 60 to 70K range. And we've got a lot of supply built up in the 0 to 1K range, which is a lot of the lost coins or coins that haven't moved in over 10 years. And then essentially what you see is this redistribution as we go on through time. You see more supply built up in these ranges, get more distributed. And that's what we're likely to see as the price movement continues. And then in some cases, you look at that 20K to 30K range, that price just jumps it completely and no supply gets to really build up or exchange hands there.
On.
Another way to look at the market, which is a pretty bullish development in terms of how fast this can change with the price move. So we can look at the percent supply in the market that's in profit, and just within a few months' time, with the latest price movements, we're seeing 65% to over 100% of supply and profit, to coming back down to about 92%. And then if we look back in previous cycles, this can range around 95% supply and profit for quite a long time. We're just looking at the latest period and we're hitting all-time high of 7 months, but this is a consistent trend where supply and profit reaches these 95% levels, and you think, okay, people are going to take profit and it's going to cool off. And they do in some cases through the weeks, but it can range kind of in these high supply and profit areas for a long time.